Hi and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will bring you a wealth of interesting people with fascinating ideas across the tech industries, the creative industries, and also uplifting stories of courage and hope. We all go through prickly situations in life. I believe that through courage, creativity, and curiosity, you can find inspiration to nurture your zest. That thing that gets you up and out of bed every morning, the thing that lifts you up and lights up your day. So join me in the studio and let's see who we have in the hot seat today. Hello and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. Today I'm joined by the amazing Andy Haddon, who I really love his work, and I'm a big supporter of the Big River Bakery. You're going to hear about that today. I love his journey as an academic and a researcher, and for me, he's a great example of someone who can show us how we can make a difference in our own communities every day. So without further ado, welcome to the studio, Andy.
Thank you, Ashleigh. Pleasure.
Yeah, so we've worked together quite a lot recently, and we've got to chat a lot about the journey of the Big River Bakery. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited about that. You've also been in a lot of press at the moment.
Yeah, on national TV in the UK at the weekend. So it keeps on happening. Just whenever we get an opportunity, we just always say yes. And people think, oh, you're just having a load of fun there. But it is fun, but it's essential to do that stuff to keep the business rolling.
I think it's amazing as well to see the momentum and the traction and see that, you know, people are always interested in coming back. And also your Stottie sales are growing every time there's a feature on TV, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. And online sales and all of that. Yeah, it does keep growing. It starts to feed itself after a certain point in time. But we seem to be the place to come for. Yeah, there's the Stottie, that northeastern loaf. But just the values behind the business engages people and makes them want to come or buy something. We had a baking course the other week and we had 4 people came from Utah. So what's that about, eh? So it's about the values, it's about the publicity, but it's the values as well as, they learn how to make a loaf of bread. They probably could have done that in Utah, but they came. So that's one example, and it is growing. It is gathering momentum. I think sometimes I like to think about it more like a movement than purely a bakery. Yeah.
It is a movement, and watching your journey has been a movement too. So this episode is coming out during National Stottie Week, which is exciting. And we'll talk about the power of the Stottie in this episode. But one thing I wanted to say is, who are you? Who's Andy? Because I know you as an academic, as a researcher, as a commenter, talking about social enterprise and the way things could be different. So almost as a mouthpiece, I think, for some of the wicked problems that we see in the world. You are an advocate and an activist around that. And I see you as someone who does that practically. If you were to describe yourself, how would you do it?
Well, I think you said some of the words there, activist. I think it took me a long time to find myself. You know, you're asking who is Andy Haddon. I think that's been quite a long journey, trying to conform, fit in, large companies, big organizations, working for them and feeling more and more uncomfortable with it. And then I think a few pivotal incidents in my life, led me to think it's not a dress rehearsal. I've got to be authentic and be me and do what I feel is important, be part of that. And that's about 20 years ago, got more and more interested in climate change and went to Johannesburg to the Earth Summit as a global activist. And I think I had to not just go through the motions in work, start to find my own path there. So that was quite a long journey to get to that point of live an authentic life, be yourself and what you really believe in. And that's what I've come to through the bakery, really, and through the other projects around that. And that's coming up 13 years that we started that now. So that's it in itself has been quite a long journey. But you've got to find your purpose and your passion. And if you're lucky, find a route to act on that. And I think that's what I've done.
You certainly have. You've done something really special with Big River Bakery. And I want to think about what you just said about values and finding your purpose. So did you just wake up one day and go, hey, I want to start a bakery? Or what was the steps to that journey?
Yeah, it was very emergent, as the MBA say, emergent strategy. So I think I wanted to act on climate change. I live in a little village up the Tyne Valley, 10 miles upstream from Newcastle. Put a thing out in the village saying, who wants to start acting on climate change in this village? And so living in my bachelor house, wouldn't call it a pad. I think it had about one seat in the living room. So about 15 plus people came and all sat round on the floor because that's all I had. And yeah, we started a climate change action group called Wylam Green Street. And that was the start of it, and acting there through a volunteer thing, because sometimes you can't go to where you want to be at the beginning. So starting volunteer route is quite a good one, I think. Quite often you can, an organization that already exists, or start your own and try, and because you learn by doing. I'm very much on the learning by doing as a focus now, rather than purely academic. And so, yeah, we started Wylam Green Street and did quite a few projects, including, as we've talked about before, gathering apples and pressing them and pasteurizing them and making juice, just waste apples that were rolling down the street in the village. That's just, I think I've always been a bit that way, just seeing something and not wanting to leave it like that. Just most people have walked past those apples for many years, if not decades. No, I'm going to pick them up and try and do something useful with them and see how it grows out of that. So yeah, we did that with the apples, and we did a few other projects. I mean, the apple things turned into an award-winning orchard and wildflower meadow in the grounds of the local school. But the really great thing is, after a little while, I didn't have to lead it. A group formed, took 3 years, mind, a constituted group that could take the project forward and not led by me. So that's it, to be a catalyst, but you can't do it all. You can't make a sustainable food system globally. I can't do that. But what you can do is catalyze projects that maybe people get interested in or inspire them to try something different. And that's what I try to do. Yeah, it's sort of trying to do things that have an impact beyond me, really, and gather momentum without me being there. And after a number of years of the volunteer thing, I realized most volunteer projects end up with one or two people, and that's all really driving it. And you have to have something sustainable beyond when you lose your energy or your passion, or you've got to go and earn a living. So how do you create a structure that enables a project to grow beyond small-scale volunteering, which is okay around climate change, but maybe we need more than that to create the change that the world really needs, I believe. So created a trading entity. And I think it, like a lot of things for me, it came in my sleep, call it Earth Doctors. And that's what we called the company, the social enterprise, a community business. And under that umbrella, we then started to generate income that would enable us to employ people and grow and be viable beyond just a few volunteers' passion. So that's where the bakery and several other projects evolved under that umbrella, and they're still evolving now. Bit of a long answer.
It's perfect. It's great to see how many different projects you're involved in, and just thinking about the apple orchard story. For me, that's always powerful, because I think a lot of people would just walk down the street and see apples on the floor and just think, oh yeah, okay, waste apples, we'll just throw them in the bin. But for you, it's not really climate change. It's the fact that that's food waste that you want to deal with. And, you know, I know one of the wicked problems of the world that's close to your heart is food poverty. You know, a lot of people don't have ways to feed themselves or can't afford to feed their children, and one of the things the bakery is actually doing is giving people the power to do that through the means of the Stottie, which is a beautiful story. So could you share with us, you know, why Stotties are so magical, their connection to the Northeast, and why they can really help people on the breadline?
Mm-hmm. That's the first pun of the session. Well done on the breadline. But yeah. So the Stottie came out of that industrial era, revolution eras, when large families and not much resource, very physical work, both for the men and the women. How are we going to survive, really? And so coming up with a flat, round loaf that proves quick, bakes quick, was pretty fundamental to survival at that time. And so for me, that's quite an inspiring example of innovation and resilience in the Northeast. But it was like most things that are most things that go extinct, animals, whatever, stotties, just disappear quietly. They don't go and make a lot of noise. Just one day, the bird's not singing anymore. It's not there. So, and it was the same with the stottie. So, okay, it's a lovely loaf and there's a lot of resonance with people, or my granny used to make it and all that, but the kids never heard of the word and they haven't eaten it. And so it was slowly going extinct. But there's a message in the stottie of inspirational resilience, innovation, all that, that's quite powerful, I think. So, yep, it's a loaf that people love if they can remember it. We've got to bring it back for the new generations, bring it forward for the new generations too. But so it's been a powerful tool. And we didn't have that plan, before we started doing them more in the bakery, but then we realized the power of the thing to inspire, and hopefully other projects and other people will come up with things from that. So yeah, it's evolved into this powerful tool, a communications tool, really, a humble loaf of bread. So, and it's had quite an impact. And so like people coming from Utah for a stottie baking course, why is that? It's about the values of and what we do, that we do it and not just talk about it. And so it's a messaging tool, really, a communications tool that seems to inspire people both locally, nationally, and more widely. So, and they come and visit or buy something online. It's been, a great thing for us. And we have to be true to its roots. We've got National Stottie Week, and so making sure that it's accessible to people who haven't got a lot of resource, and that's part of the message of the stottie. So if we keep going back to where it came from, we won't go far wrong, I think.
Yeah, I think the stottie is powerful. I'm a adopted Geordie. I'm from South Africa originally, and my heart led me to Newcastle, and I've stayed, and I love it. I think it's beautiful. But to me, the stottie is something that we can be proud of as a region, that the people of Baika can own as their thing. And I know we're not the only people in the UK to make a stottie recipe, but it is a very important part of our region's heritage. And I think it's, I actually came on the stottie making course. So when I did my master's in business administration at Newcastle University Business School, I came with Peter Edwards and our whole class.
Yes.
Actually 2 separate classes, and we came and made bread, and it was really powerful. It was one of the favorite experiences of many of the students, myself included, because we got to hear about the work you do in the bakery. And actually one of the things I wanted to comment on is when you are hiring people, you actually hire a lot of people. A lot of people who are watching this won't realize you've got quite a large workforce. I was walking down the street the other day, and there was a Big River Bakery van, and in my head I thought, oh well, I wonder if it's Gail or Andy in there. And then I thought to myself, don't be ridiculous, they haven't got time to ride vans round and deliver stotties.
Oh no, it still happens sometimes, but we do have a driver. He's full-time employed, but
but this is the thing, you are giving people roles, and actually you're also hiring people in a way that really is in line with your values. So can you share a little bit about your recruitment strategy, or your ways you're giving people opportunities?
Yeah, well, I guess there's 2 things there. We're in Shieldfield, so we've employed quite a lot of people in the local area, bakers and front of house staff. So that's great to bring work into Shieldfield. So the money's cycling around within Shieldfield, which is always a better way than it going off to some shareholders in Timbuktu or whatever. And then I think it's about 1/3 of the staff are on the autistic or on the neurodiverse spectrum. So some of them, once they leave school, the support system drops away. They would be in their bedroom for the rest of their lives. So they're employed, they have a salary, and they've got a purpose. And so that's a really important thing, I think. And we'd like to do a lot more of that. So we'll see how that can grow. So 17 people in the team now. So I didn't think that would have happened by now, but it has. So it's great. There's some pressure there to make that work. But we've got a great team, because a bakery is all about the team. No one person can make a bakery work. You'll do yourself an injury or something, because it's too hard, one-man thing. So there's some great learning internally and for everyone involved, because they've got to be proactive. They've got to become good team workers. They've got to project manage critical path and adapt to changes when the dough's going different, other things. So it's a great environment in which to work, to learn skills that we might use in any work. So I think it works pretty well.
It's the people that make the dough, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah. It's because it is a rather magical thing. You come into the bakery first thing in the morning, it's just a load of steel tables and there's nothing there. And then the magic happens. Maybe they're all wizards, the bakers. And then with some very simple ingredients, they make a huge range of products and make people happy, and make sure they're affordable as well. So our business model's around that. So it's not just artisan, as they call it, bread for the affluent. It's accessible. That's what we try to do.
For sure. So I have more of an academic question I wanted to ask you, which is about creating shared value. So you have corporate social responsibility, CSR, which lots of people will know that term. And then you have creating shared value. And there's lots of discussion about, is one better than the other? What do they mean? I'm just thinking, when I look at what you've built with the bakery, to me, everything you do is about creating shared value. It's a win-win for the people of Shieldfield. It's for the region. There's always, if there's an income, it's a profit with purpose. It's to go back into the local community, to go back into other projects.
Yeah.
So I was curious about, your thoughts when it comes to business and social enterprise.
Yep.
And creating a difference, or the difference you want to see. What would you say if anyone was studying how to successfully create shared value or make a difference? What kind of lessons would you want to get them to look at?
I think that the right nub of it is your business model, really. What is your business model? To explore that, and it can evolve over time, but that's the fundamental, because CSR can be sometimes, it's used from a marketing perspective, but I think the only way we'll create a sustainable way of life for humanity and everything else on earth is if we create a kind of form of business and a kind of form of capitalism. And that's really fundamentally down to the business model. And where does the income come from to make that different model work? It can't just be driven by passionate individuals, volunteers, because it runs out of steam, that model. So getting help if you need it, support to evolve your business model. You might not have it right at the start, but find a way to trial things and find the right way so that there's a viable way to grow momentum behind your idea rather than something that's going to run out of steam when the next grant stops. It has to be a trading model, and that can be quite diverse income streams to help make it work. So we've had money for making healthier baked goods. The money for that came from the Chinese government. That was a PhD. We've had money from Europe for an Erasmus program to let people go around Europe and learn from other food projects and then bring the knowledge back. So that was staff from the bakery and other people who volunteered with us and who we knew. And innovation funding in the UK. again, we've done 3 PhDs through the bakery, but by connecting with universities, and so funding comes from different routes and there's the skills and delivering skills, employability, helping people move towards employment. And we have had funds for that. So there's these different strands of value, and health's another one. How do you help people who are socially isolated or who've got a health problem where either coming to do an activity in the bakery or getting some of the food would be valuable to them, help them from a health perspective. So there's all these different strands of funding, from commercial entities, from government, from universities, and through the community sector. So it's known as the quadruple helix. So I think we've made a model of how that could work. But yeah, and I think the really valuable thing is we've put it in a community, this hub where those strands of the helix feed in. And I think we've sort of dragged the money from those different areas into the bakery and had an impact in a place that isn't affluent in the city. So it's demonstrated a model that's quite innovative in how we've financed the social impact and the social value that we deliver. It's not an easy thing to do, actually. It's been quite challenging. But I think we've demonstrated something. That's what we are really. And hopefully the learning that we've had there, we will find opportunities to share it and help other people do the same and more. I think that's what I hope.
For me, it's a real innovation testbed. It's a testament to actual innovation. So it's not just ideas that are being spoken about. You're practicing what you preach. One thing I do notice so well with the bakery is there are policymakers who will make decisions about what people need, whether it comes to health, poverty, legislation, all kinds of different things. What I love about the bakery is you are really giving communities and individuals the chance to improve their own neighborhood, their own space, but feel part of the change, regardless of their station in life. So I think sometimes as a city or as leaders or business leaders, you might have different groups that come together to tackle wicked problems of the world, and we talk about poverty and we talk about things, but sometimes the people who are most affected aren't involved in that conversation. And one of the things that I love about the bakery is I see you really helping people where they're at, rather than trying to make people feel bad about themselves or their circumstances. You are tackling challenges right at the face of them, and I think that's different to maybe other initiatives sometimes. And I think that, as they call it, place-based approach, that's one of the terms. But so in my convoluted journey to get to where I am, I think I'd worked on a few European funded projects in different parts of the city, consultants or academic researchers, and then once the money runs out, off they go, and there's no change in that place. So when you truly invest in a place, the local people see that. And I can't leave because the baking oven's too big to take out. So and we've got a trading model. All being well, it sustains it, so it's not going to disappear. So when you've invested truly in a place, the community become more engaged, I think. And the food's a good way to do that, and certainly a bakery seems to have worked that way. But you also spoke about other revenue streams. I know, for instance, you have a game. You sell Stottie, like soft toys. You sell Stottie making kits. You sell bread to some of the train lines, I think. Right?
We've got sandwiches on the main train, Lumo trains running from London to Edinburgh. So, we've had to do a lot of things to generate income. I think we are, some of the universities, one of the terms they use is a living lab. And usually they're in what you could say an ivory tower. They're within the university campus. I think we're one of the few living labs that's actually out in a community. And I think it's more powerful for that. And bringing in income from online sales of merchandise and other things. The video game doesn't actually have any income. It's a game to help people children particularly think about kindness and a more kinder way of being and doing business as they grow. So, but yeah, there's multiple strands to make the model work. And yeah, that's always evolving. Yeah.
I think for me, as an alumna and recent graduate of both Northumbria and Newcastle universities, I love the fact that I've had the opportunity to engage with the bakery and with learning in a real way, rather than, as you say, just a case study or a piece of paper or an ivory tower. So It was really powerful, and I'll always remember that visit. There's something I want to ask you about is just around you and your journey in terms of neurodiversity. So you hire a lot of people who are on this autistic spectrum.
Yep.
What's been your journey with that?
Well, gosh, I think it's only relatively recently, I'm 63 now. It's only relatively recently in the last 5 years, I wondered about, I've had this up and down journey and sort of try to fit in all sorts of environments, institutional, large organizations. And it's never really worked very well for me. And it's just me, I'm just awkward or whatever, something's wrong. But then actually, particularly having employed quite a lot of people on the neurodiverse spectrum, I've learned from them. And then it's made me reflect and think, maybe you're like this too, Andy. That's helps me understand the journey I've been on. It's been a challenging journey, but it's been a very positive one too, I think, on the whole. I wouldn't have got to do what I've done without it. One of the things you get when you think that way is you don't see the barriers and you don't think in a siloed way. That can be very challenging when you're employed by a big organization because they want you to be siloed and deliver a specific thing. So when your mind doesn't work that way and you don't see barriers to having a go either, if I hadn't been that way, it's a gift really. I wouldn't have done the bakery. I wouldn't have tried. I would have put all these barriers up and no, it's not possible. So you can be very committed and focused and also not see that it's not possible. You believe it can be done. You don't see the barriers. So if you can channel that, I think neurodiverse people are very valuable, but organizations have to find a way to get the benefit from that different way of thinking, which is quite hard for them, I think.
There is a big opportunity for us to innovate right now in that area. And I have to say, you can't be what you don't see. And I have to say, for me, I do see you as someone who is a leader for me to emulate. So if I look at social enterprise, social entrepreneurs, people that I like, their values and who I want to be like, it's great to see somebody who is neurodiverse, who is leading the way in a powerful way. So I want to thank you for your example. And I'm conscious of time. So I have to ask you my favorite question that I ask everyone, which is, what's your number one word to nurture your zest?
Number one word? Well, it's become a sort of catchphrase for me. And I am from the Northeast. And I think that's how I've gone on this journey of pretty much losing myself and then coming back to myself, to the values. So I think it's way I. Which is such a positive saying. It's very reinforcing, encouraging to others or just for yourself. And you can end up saying it all the time and it's like a nervous tick a bit. But it's such a positive expression, I think. It's part of the dialect of the region. But I think that's the one for me.
I love it. Okay. And the last thing is you've got a new podcast out soon.
Oh, yes.
So how exciting. So do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I'd never done anything like this before. And so I was a bit concerned, but how it would go. But I think with your team's help, I think it's evolved as we did it. Really interesting journey, personal journey, bakery journey, but then bringing in people involved in this arena of regeneration, economic development, delivering social value, and bringing some significant people of the Northeast in to connect the bakery with that wider agenda. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to, see what people think of it, because you can't tell yourself, you don't know, is this interesting to others? We've tried it with a few people and they seem to quite like it. So hopefully it'll do something useful and hopefully inspire some others to have a go like I have.
Exactly. So we'll pop the links in the show notes, but we haven't had too much time to dive into everything, but
Yes.
that will give people the opportunity to hear all about your story.
Thanks very much. Been a pleasure.
Thanks, Sandy. Thank you so much for listening to Nurture Your Zest today. If you're feeling extra kind, it would mean so much to me if you could share this episode with your friends or family or anyone who you think might feel inspired by this content. Liking, sharing, or interacting with our content is a great way to support us as content creators, and it helps us to bring interesting stories and more people to you. This podcast is a Flamingo Heights podcast studio production, and I've been your host, Ashleigh King. If you liked today's episode, follow the video on your screen now, or check out the link in your show notes to find similar content.